Spring training ends today. It's the final tune-up before Thursday's opener. D-backs baseball brought to you by Chaz Roberts Air Conditioning and Plumbing. The D-backs and the Indians, a spring matinee on Fox Sports Arizona. Good afternoon from Chase Field and welcome to the broadcast. Happy to be back this year. Steve Berthume, Bob Brenly along the way. The final game on the spring schedule before Thursday's opener against the Colorado Rockies. And Bob, today it's the Indians, the final spring tune-up for Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, Taijuan Walker figures to be shortened up a little bit today. He pitched into the sixth inning last time out against the Chicago White Sox, but in his final tune-up before facing the Dodgers next week, I expect Walker probably go 5 innings in this game, hopefully keep his pitch count down. He's going to throw a lot of important innings for this team this year.
Couple of news items from the Diamondbacks offices this morning. Torey Lovullo announced today that Brad Boxberger will be the closer, at least to begin the season. And Ketel Marte's contract extension made official. It could keep him a D-back for the next 7 years.
Yeah, they've identified Ketel Marte as a guy that they can build a team around, whether it's at second base or shortstop, or perhaps a combination of the two. They really like what Ketel Marte brings to this team.
It is the D-backs and the Indians. Taijuan Walker against former Diamondback Trevor Bauer. First pitch is coming up on Fox Sports Arizona.
D-backs baseball on Fox Sports Arizona is brought to you by Ram Trucks. It's Ram Truck Month. Hurry in for a great deal or visit ramtrucks.com. By Chaz Roberts Air Conditioning and Plumbing. Choose Chaz. By Desert Ford Dealers. Visit your Desert Ford dealers and click buyfordnow.com for more. By Taco Bell, try the new $1 nacho fries here for a limited time. And by your Valley Honda dealers, where you'll get more standard features for less money. Is brought to you by Sanderson Ford. The best play is at Sanderson Ford. By Tire Pros, everything rotates around you. By Gila River Hotels and Casinos. The card by Gila River Casinos earns you rewards 10 times faster than ever before. Sign up for the card today. By White Claw Hard Seltzer, the purest hard seltzer in the world. And by Subaru. Visit your local Subaru retailer to learn about the Subaru Forever, versatility that inspires. Well, the roof is open inside Chase Field, taking more advantage of this cool springtime weather. Taijuan Walker and the D-backs face the Indians. First pitch next on Fox Sports Arizona. Cloudy, 72 degrees inside Chase Field with the roof wide open. Steve Berthiaume, Bob Brenly, Kate Longworth along the way. It's the Indians and the Diamondbacks in the final spring game before Thursday's season opener here against the Colorado Rockies. Not exactly a playoff atmosphere here today, BB, but it's sort of a nice chill day to put your feet up on the seat in front and watch some D-backs baseball.
Yeah, with clearly in your sights opening day just a couple of days away and the final game of spring training. Obviously both teams want to just get out of here intact, no injuries today, no health problems, move on to the regular season with everybody on the roster ready to play.
Well, the D-backs last year had a spring training record of 15-15-2, and that is exactly their same record heading into this finale here today. Ketel Marte, the proud owner of a 5-year contract extension that was made official this morning. There are 2 option years that could keep him in Sedona Red for 7 seasons. They are all in, BB, on Ketel Marte.
Yeah, they really like what they saw in limited time last year from Ketel Marte. As we mentioned in the open, this guy's very versatile, can play second or short, 2 very important defensive positions on the team, and provide some sock with that bat as well. I think they identified this guy. A perfect example of why it's not always the big names in the trade that end up being the good major league players. Ketel Marte kind of a throw-in that Gene Segura deal, and Marte's the guy that figures to be here in Arizona for at least 5 years, maybe longer.
Hey, here's the guy who was the headliner in that trade, Taijuan Walker, as he takes the mound. With the roof open here at Chase Field. Taijuan last year 9-9 in 28 starts. His first season with the D-backs after coming over in that trade from Seattle. Mitch Haniger, Gene Segura going to the Mariners, and he is your Ram truck starter for the D-backs here today.
Yeah, look for fastball command today from Taijuan. As you get down to the end of spring training, pitchers have gradually incorporated their secondary pitches into their repertoire, but now at final tune-up before your first real game of the season, you just want to work on command. Make sure you can move that fastball in and out, up and down, throw it for strikes when you want to.
And Taijuan continuing to work on that cutter slider hybrid that he's had some success with this spring. We'll talk about that as we proceed forward. Here is the lineup for Terry Francona's Cleveland Indians.
And it's a good lineup led by Francisco Lindor at the top. He'll be at shortstop. Roberto Perez is a designated hitter this afternoon. Jason Kipnis, the veteran, out at second base. Jose Ramirez, maybe the best player nobody knows about, playing third base for the Indians today. Yonder Alonso, former Padre, over at first base. Lonnie Chisenhall will be out in right field with Yan Gomes doing the catching. Bradley Zimmer in center field and Tyler Naquin in left field. Trevor Bauer, the right-hander, on the mound.
And for the Diamondbacks defensively, this is, I think, a lot like we anticipate things will look Thursday night. The defense presented by E.D. Marshall.
Yeah, looks a lot like the opening day lineup. David Peralta in left, A.J. Pollock in center. Chris Owings filling in for Steven Souza Jr., who's on the disabled list out in right field. It'll be Jake Lamb and Nick Ahmed on the left side of the infield. Ketel Marte and Paul Goldschmidt on the right side, with Alex Avila behind the plate for big right-hander Taijuan Walker.
Pat Hoberg is our plate umpire here this afternoon. The final spring game here in 2018 before Thursday's opener. Francisco Lindor, the shortstop, leads it off for the Indians. Lindor having a big spring. He's homered 5 times, 242 this spring. The Indians have hit a whole bunch of home runs in Cactus League play.
Yeah, 59 bombs for this Indians offense, 7 of them grand slams.
Yeah, Perez has 5, Kipnis has 6, Ramirez has 7, Yonder Alonso, or has 1. Yonder Alonso has 7 home runs. Taijuan ahead quickly 0-2. That's hit to second base. There is Ketel Marte, quickly 1 down. Time now, BB, for your Valley Honda dealers. Key to the game.
Yeah, we mentioned the lineup for the Diamondbacks. We assume this is what we'll see on opening day. So this is just a dress rehearsal. We'll see how long the starters stay in the ball game today. Usually the last game of spring training is very short duty, but we'll see how Torrey chooses to play it today.
One of the guys who will split the catching duties for Cleveland. He's the DH today, Roberto Perez. Having a big spring like a lot of these Indians hitters. 341 with 5 homers. You'll notice right away the addition of our K zone up there. We'll keep that up there for you throughout the ball game. Give you a better idea of where these pitchers are locating.
That's a good pitch right there. Taiwan really used that to his benefit last year. That high four-seam fastball across the top of the zone. Unfortunately, didn't get the call that time from Pat Hobart.
It will be interesting to see in the era now of swing playing, everybody trying to lift the ball up in the air, how many pitchers try to counter that by working up in the strike zone.
I think it's an area that not very many pitchers want to exploit because guys get the ball in the air and they tend to leave the ballpark. But with so many guys in the uppercut swing now, if you can scoot it up there just a little bit higher than they can handle, you should get a lot of easy pop-ups.
Fastball there, missed inside, and it's 3 balls and 1 strikes on Roberto Perez with Jason Kipnis, the Sun Devil, on deck. Perez beginning his 5th season in the big leagues, all with Cleveland. He will split the catching duties with Yan Gomes, who's behind the plate today. There's Jason Kipnis. Full count, 3-2. Goldie smothers that one in the hole. Walker gets over there, 2 down.
You mentioned second year for Taijuan Walker with the Diamondbacks, and if he learned anything last year, it's that you have to get over and cover first base on anything hit to that right side because Paul Goldschmidt can really cover some ground over there.
2 down for Taiwan. That brings up the second baseman, Jason Kipnis, hitting .360 this spring with 6 home runs. He was plagued by a right shoulder problem throughout last season, only played in 90 games. Diamondbacks will put the shift on here. But Kipnis healthy again this year, and he's returning to form. Second round pick by the Indians out of ASU back in 2009. No American League team won more games last season than the Indians. They won 102, including a league record 22 straight at one point. Terry Francona's tribe 17 up on the Twins atop the AL Central, but they lost in the division series against the Yankees. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Jose Ramirez would be next. Kipnis lays off a close one. He's worked it full 3-2. Alex Avila, one of the offseason acquisitions, behind the plate today. Swing and a miss. A 1-2-3 first for Taijuan Walker. D-backs coming up. It's Trevor Bauer, the former D-back draftee. A 17-game winner with Cleveland last year. Career highs in wins, strikeouts, and innings pitched. He's 2-1 this spring so far.
Boy, and he was really good down the stretch for the Tribe last year. He was 8-1 in the last 2 months of the season with an ERA in the mid-2s. He's kind of scrapped his cut fastball in favor of a slower, more controllable slider, which really turned his season around last year in the second half.
Here's a look at the lineup for the D-backs this afternoon.
David Peralta will lead it off out in left field. A.J. Pollock will be out in center. Paul Goldschmidt down at first base. Jake Lamb across the diamond at third. Ketel Marte will be playing second base with Alex Avila behind the plate. Chris Owings in right field. Nick Ahmed at short, and Taijuan Walker on the mound.
Jose Ramirez a little late getting out of the Indians dugout. He's assumed his position now at third base, and we're set to go. Peralta 421 this spring with a home run. He homered off Bauer here at Chase Field last April. Remember, the Diamondbacks swept the Indians here the first weekend of last season.
I believe last year the Diamondbacks played the Indians at the end of spring training just like this. The Indians went to Anaheim to open their season and then came right back here to Chase Field to play against the Diamondbacks in the regular season.
That was a big key for the D-backs last year, taking 3 of 4 from the Giants and then sweeping Cleveland here on the opening homestand. They get off to a roaring start. National League Manager of the Year, Zory Lovello. Bauer goes to that cutter slider hybrid pitch, and he strikes out Peralta. E.D. Marshall has a look at the Indians defense.
Tyler Naquin in left field. Bradley Zimmer will be out in center with Lonnie Chisenhall in right field. The infield will be Jose Ramirez at third, Francisco Lindor at shortstop, Jason Kipnis at second base, Big Yonder Alonso over at first, Yan Gomes doing the catching for right-hander Trevor Bauer.
A.J. Pollock in the 2-hole. A.J. just under 270 in Cactus League play with 1 home run. Slow curveballs in there for a strike, and it's 0-2. You mentioned control. That has always been the issue for Trevor Bauer.
A big-time strikeout pitcher. His numbers would say that over the course of his career, as well as this spring. He punches out a lot of guys, but unfortunately it takes him a lot of pitches to do it usually.
That is a fair ball by Ramirez and down the left field line. Tyler Naquin has it in the corner. A.J. Pollock has his 4th double this spring.
Right down the chalk. A.J. gets out in front of this breaking ball. A curveball that just kind of hung up on the inside corner of the plate, able to keep it fair right down that third base line. An easy 1-out double, setting the table for Goldie, Lamb, Marte, and others, hopefully.
Here is Paul Goldschmidt. Goldie was a triple shy of the cycle last night here. 318 on the spring with 3 homers. A home run last night off Carlos Carrasco. By the way, they are using the humidor balls in these 2 games against Indians, and this was Goldie with the humidor baseball last night. Didn't seem to bother him.
That kind of contact right there, you could hit a sweat sock out of the ballpark. Boy, did he crush that one. And there were a few, though, that looked like they were hit well enough to leave the ballpark that didn't quite make it.
It was interesting. Zach Greinke had some loud fly ball outs early in his start last night that you wonder if the humidor bogged them down just a bit. They stayed in the park. Greinke was tremendous last night. 6 innings, gave up only 1 hit. 1 out, Pollock at second, 1-1 on Goldie. Jake Lamb hit a baseball last night for his 3rd home run of the spring. That was 108 miles an hour off the bat. And according to the research, it traveled 10 feet shorter than it would have had they not been using the humidor, if you're into that kind of thing. So that's all the data we have so far on the use of the humidor here at Chase Field.
Well, we definitely know who is into that sort of thing, and that's the Diamondbacks analytics department.
Oh, yeah.
And you bet they've been crunching numbers and adding and subtracting and dividing and all that good stuff to try to figure out, is it going to benefit the Diamondbacks? Obviously, it's going to benefit the pitching staff, but what you lose offensively, you know, are you making it up defensively and on the mound? And I'm sure they've crunched all those numbers and have come up with somewhat of a formula to attack the humidor balls.
Run production is something you hear a lot about. Run prevention is something that's highlighted by this D-backs front office in terms of good defensive players and anything else they can do to keep those runs down. Full count, 3 balls, 2 strikes. Jake Lamb on deck. Goldie checked his swing. Bauer dropped it in there. His second strikeout, 2 down.
Third baseman, number 20.
It looks like just a get me over breaking ball right here from Trevor Bauer. I mentioned he's not throwing as many cutters. He's gone more to that legitimate slider, a pitch that he feels he can command in the zone a little bit better, and got Goldie to look at one that time for strike 3.
Jake Lamb, 3 homers and 14 RBIs this spring. He's really heating up at the plate in the final week here this spring. Trying to get Pollock home from second with 2 outs. This was Jake Lamb last night, leading off the second against Carlos Carrasco.
Woo. Well, and hopefully Jake will be able to carry that same swing right into the regular season. We all know the difficulties he had in the second half of the season and against left-handed pitching, and he's going to see a bunch of lefties early in the season this year.
Yeah, we were in Torey Lovullo's office this morning, and Torey has the master plan up on the board there. And you're right, the Dodgers come in here after the Rockies, and they will start 3 left-hand pitchers in that series. And the Rockies have a left-hander starting on Friday. Swing and a miss on that slider. It's 1-2. Mentioned Jake heating up. He homered and doubled last night. He's got the home run, 5 doubles in his last 8 games. Bauer's having a lot of luck with that pitch so far.
Just did get a piece of it down into the dirt before bouncing into Gomes' mitt behind home plate.
Indians do not put a shift on for Jake Lamb. We saw a lot of teams shift against Jake this spring. Called strike 3, a fastball, 3 strikeouts for Bauer. He strands the 1-out double. No score, the D-backs and the Indians.
Diamondbacks' final game of the spring, and the big news out here at Chase Field today, the Diamondbacks making it official. 24-year-old Ketel Marte is worth $24 million, according to the Diamondbacks, who have inked the young rising star to a 5-year deal. Mike Hazen calling the versatile shortstop a dynamic player, citing his approach on offense and consistent defense. Torre went on to say last year Marte faced challenges both in the game and his personal life, and always handled them the way a Diamondback should. It's clear this ball club excited to build the team around him.
Kate, he has proven to be a very dynamic player, certainly, since he arrived at midseason last year up from Reno. And we've got a last-minute change here. Terry Francona came out to check with the plate umpire Pat Hoberg. Jose Ramirez is due up, but we're going to see Eric Gonzalez instead. Apparently there's a problem with Ramirez. So Ramirez, the third baseman, being pinch hit for to lead off the second inning, and this is Eric Gonzalez.
Well, we speculated that perhaps the managers would shorten guys up today. I didn't think it would be in the second inning, but for whatever reason, Jose Ramirez out of this game.
Kate was talking about Ketel Marte, Bob, and Torey Lovullo mentioned this. The Diamondbacks, and you forget this because of how well Marte played last year, but the Diamondbacks lost 2 shortstops last season, and Nick Ahmed and Chris Owings. That would have absolutely crippled many teams.
Most teams, yeah.
But the way Ketel Marte came up from Reno, they didn't skip a beat.
Hit the ground running offensively, provided some thump. Great speed, great quickness defensively with that first step. Strong, accurate throwing arm, everything you want.
Little squib shot. Goldie covers it, but he's got no play in foul ground, and Gonzalez is aboard. Marte figures to see most of his time this year at second base with Nick Ahmed and Chris Owings back healthy. That's a base hit for Gonzalez, brings up Yonder Alonso. But Ketel will see some time at shortstop as well. They'll move some pieces around. One of the newest Indians, Yonder Alonso, 7 home runs. He's hitting .370 this spring. A couple of strikeouts against Zach Greinke last night for Alonso. Goldie, and they turn 2. There it is. I still say he does that better than anyone in the game.
The thing that's amazing is that the initial throw is always right on the money where the middle infielder can handle it. Usually around waist high, chest high, on the proper side of the bag so that middle infielder can clear the sliding runner. And then gets back to the bag to cover himself. 3-6-3, not as easy as he makes it look.
Lonnie Chisenhall, the right fielder. D-backs have the shift on for the left-hand batter. Chisenhall 185 this spring. Marte, the second baseman, out of the outfield grass. Ahmed, the shortstop, over on the first base side of second. There is Ketel Marte, a pretty backhand pick. That's why they want to keep him around. No score, D-backs and the Indians. First 20,000 fans will take home this 1998 replica jersey, courtesy of Chase. Visit dbacks.com/20. Things still appear to be on track for Zach Greinke to start that game after he was brilliant here last night, as the D-backs celebrate 20 seasons of Diamondbacks baseball this year. All kinds of 20th anniversary items available in the team shops here at Chase Field.
I wasn't sure how the purple and the Sedona red was going to work together on that anniversary patch, but it looks really good.
Here is Ketel Marte. He'll lead off the second against Trevor Bauer. And Marte has been outstanding offensively this spring. He's hitting .436. Eric Gonzalez, who hit for Ramirez, takes over at third base. Bauer 3 strikeouts in the first. Marte chops that one by Lindor and into left, a leadoff single. You don't get many by Francisco Lindor.
Well, when you hit him this hard with a little bit of side English, that's about the only way you're going to get it by him. Nice swing that time by Marte. Barrels that ball up to the left side, just past the diving Lindor into left field.
That'll bring up the catcher, Alex Avila. Signed as a free agent at the end of January. Got a 2-year deal. A quiet spring, 3 for 27 so far with a home run. So Alex played a little bit of first base here in the ball game last night. He may see some time down there along with Daniel Descalso on those Goldie off days.
They roll around, what, every 3 years or so, the Goldie off day?
Every Halley's Comet and Blue Moon. Avila 9 seasons in the big leagues. Double-digit home runs 4 times, including 14 last year with the Tigers and the Cubs. Change up from Bauer. It's 1-1. And with the way this team grows facial hair, he found the right spot.
Yeah, you get the feeling Alex is one of those guys that could shave in the morning and look like this at game time at 7 o'clock at night.
He did shave this morning.
He might have, yeah.
Devin Marrero, one of the newer Diamondbacks, a contender as well. Former Sun Devil, acquired from the Red Sox the other day. But Avila will be one of what we presume will be 3 catchers, along with Jeff Mathis and John Ryan Murphy. Sad to see Chris Herman go, but he ran into a numbers crunch with both Herman and Murphy out of minor league options.
Yeah, and you look at the makeup of the rest of the roster, and there wasn't the need for Chris Herman's glove in right field or left field or first base this year that the Diamondbacks had last year.
Marte takes off for second, head first slide, and he's out of there. Yan Gomes throws him out. I think a lot of that is because of the new role they envision for Chris Owings playing all over the field.
Yeah, super utility kind of a guy, especially when Steven Souza Jr. comes back from the disabled list. At that point, Chris Owings will be freed up to give them a lot of different guys a day off if Torrey chooses to go that direction.
And at least in the meantime, with Owings seeing a lot of time in right field, we'll see Devin Marrero in that utility infielder role, as Bauer drops a curveball in there for his 4th strikeout.
You hate to give too much credit to an opposing pitcher, but Trevor Bauer looks like he's ready to start the regular season. Thrown some good change-ups already. That hybrid slider cutter is a much better pitch for him this year, and he spotted his fastball well in the early going.
Chris Owings in right field, 255 this spring. And Trevor Bauer lost 4 of his first 6 starts last year, but still wound up a 17-game winner. He was 10-2 after the All-Star break. He really figured it out along the way. There's another curveball. He is lined up to pitch Cleveland's 3rd regular season game on Sunday in Seattle. Corey Kluber pitches the opener, then Carlos Carrasco. Behind Bauer, they've got Mike Clevenger and Josh Tomlin. What do you think of this new role for Chris Owings?
I think he's well suited for it. It really just depends on his mental approach to that job. I mean, there are a lot of good, really good utility players in Major League Baseball, and you can make a lot of money and get a lot of at-bats if you can do the things that Chris Owings can do. Play outfield, play infield, use him as a double switch partner late in the ball game, use him as a pinch runner if he doesn't start the game. A lot of ways that Chris Owings will get involved in play this year, not playing the same position every day.
Those numbers for CO limited to just under 100 games last year because of that broken finger. That was at the end of July, trying to lay down a bunt against the Cardinals' Lance Lynn. Had surgery the next day. Lance Lynn now in Minnesota. Nick Ahmed on deck. This is bounced to third base for Gonzalez. Low throw, and it gets by Alonso.
Well, Gonzalez, as we documented, came into the game for Jose Ramirez. Probably didn't have a lot of time to loosen up that throwing arm and just spikes one in the dirt to Alonso at first base. It bounced up and over into the dugout. So Chris Owings on at second base with 2 outs in the inning.
E5 for Gonzalez. Brings up Nick Ahmed. Nick having a good spring, .310. He's homered twice. Although he struck out 4 times in 4 at-bats of the ball game here last night. The golden sombrero.
Get him out of the way now.
Exactly. Slider up and in, missed. It's a ball and no strike.
Only 2 home runs on the spring for Nick Ahmed, but his swing looks different this year. We've talked a lot about guys trying to get the ball in the air a little bit more, get their launch angle up in the air a little bit more, and Nick looks like a guy that has shortened up his swing, has a little bit of that upward arc as he comes through the hitting zone, especially on pitches on the inside part of the plate.
Another breaking ball got away from Bauer. It's 2-0. You see a lot of guys, and we talked about this a moment ago, focused on launch angle and trying to lift the baseball up in the air. So a lot of major league hitters are lowering their hands in their batting stance, try and get to that ball quicker. But Nick has always been a guy who tinkers with his mechanics up there. Something it seems is always changing. Gonzalez one more time. Perfect strike there. We're through 2. The Diamondbacks and Indians, no score. Indians. Only 2 days to go until opening day, coming up here Thursday night. And the D-backs are set to start the season against the Rockies. Our coverage begins at 5 o'clock, a special 2-hour D-backs live pregame show. only on Fox Sports Arizona and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. I notice our producer Brad the Big Dog Weimer approving a shot of a guy in a Michigan shirt. What a surprise that is.
Yeah. Gloating
about their Final Four appearance. I don't know why he didn't foul either. 4-point game, 15 seconds, foul somebody. Seemed like certainly a valid question. UCLA, not so much. Jan Gomes will lead off the third against Taiwan Walker. How did Ohio do this year?
Yep.
All right. They didn't qualify for the NIT, nothing?
No, they didn't make it this year.
All right.
So like a lot of other people, I've jumped on that Loyola of Chicago bandwagon.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Underdog story. Sister Jean or whatever her name is. I mean, that's what we needed. We didn't need 4 powerhouse teams in the Final Four.
Yeah, you got to have one underdog.
Yeah, somebody.
Can't just be chalk all the way to San Antonio. I think they're an 11 seed.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Sister Jean is an international sensation, as she points out. Yeah, they're making Sister Jean T-shirts and bobbleheads and socks and everything. That's what it's supposed to be about. Like just the Loyolas of the world, amateur athletics, having some fun. That one caught by the protective netting, and that's one of the new features here at Chase Field this year. We should get that in. The net extends all the way around the infield. The old and the new right there, all the way to the far end of each dugout. So if you've got an infield box seat, you are fully protected here at the ballpark. All 30 major league teams quickly lining up to get that done in their ballparks.
Well, ideally everybody brings their glove to the ballpark and they're able to defend themselves when those foul balls go screaming up into the stands. But unfortunately, some people get distracted by social media or whatever the case may be. So we want to make sure they're protected.
That's a fair ball. Long throw for Lamb. Jan Gomes able to beat it out.
Gomes showing some good speed down that first baseline. Jake Lamb gets to it in good shape. Maybe a little too deliberate in winding up to make this throw across the diamond, and Gomes made him pay. Beat it out for an infield hit.
Using that catcher speed that we so often refer to.
He has deceptive speed. He's a lot slower than he looks.
Here's Bradley Zimmer, the center fielder. 229 and 3 homers this spring. Lamb in on the grass at third. Indians beginning the season with Michael Brantley on the disabled list, coming back from that right ankle surgery last October. But Brantley has been playing. Had a home run the other day, in fact, for Cleveland, but they're slow playing him into the year. He's always such a critical part of this lineup for Terry Francona. So it's Zimmer in center and Naquin in left today.
Yeah, Brantley will stay here when the team breaks camp. He'll work out over in Goodyear until the end of minor league camp, and hopefully by then he'll be physically able to take his spot on this roster. Well, he's one of those guys you just love to see him stay healthy for a full season and see what kind of numbers he could put up.
Yeah, so many serious problems for Michael Brantley over the course of his career. He was an all-star last year, but slowed down for much of the second half of last season by that ankle problem. Before that, right shoulder injuries, right biceps injuries. 1-2 on Zimmer. Now the Diamondbacks have the infield shift on here with a man on first base. They were in a similar spot last night in the game, and Jake Lamb was a little slow getting over to cover the bag. When you try and turn what would be, say, a 4-5-3 double play with a third baseman taking the turn at second. And that's something that You sort of have to drill into guys when you put these defensive shifts on.
Yeah, when teams really first started to play these exaggerated shifts a few years ago, I don't think they were prepared for a play like you just mentioned. A ground ball hit to the right side and your third baseman becomes the pivot man on a double play. I think a lot of teams realize that if we're going to play this shift, we need to make the plays that we're going to have during the course of the ball game. So we've seen the Diamondbacks and pretty much every team work on that shift defense, and where does everybody go when the ball's put into play? Who's responsible for this? Who's responsible for that? And I think after the first year or two, everybody's kind of caught up with it, but there will be those occasions when guys are just a little slow getting over there to cover.
And Jason Kipnis hit a double play ball in the 4th inning last night, and Jake almost sort of forgot for a second to get over there with the shift on and was a step late, and they weren't able to turn the double play. Something the third baseman never had to think about up until a few years ago. There's the Taiwan split finger pitch, missed, and it's a full count on Zimmer, 3-2.
Well, you can,
Tyler Naquin on deck.
I'm sorry, partner.
Yeah.
You can just see the difference in some of the teams defensively. When everybody started these exaggerated pull shifts, the ball would be put into play, and you could almost sense everybody looking at each other. Where am I supposed to go?
Exactly.
What am I supposed to do now? Well, teams have worked on it. They've practiced it. They've simulated situations that will come up during the course of the game, and hopefully much better able to handle it now.
That one knuckled on Avila. A fastball that Zimmer just did get a piece of. Got a bigger piece of Avila.
Yeah, unfortunately, you get a little exposed. A pitch up in the zone, you start to come out of your crouch, and then the ball is just fouled down into the inner right thigh there. That can't feel good. Now, you know, as a catcher, like a high pitch, something up around shoulder high on a hitter, as soon as you come up out of your crouch and start to go up with your upper body and your glove, that midsection is exposed, and if the guy check swings like Zimmer did right there, you're very susceptible.
Line to Goldie at first, and Gomes just does get back safely as Nick Ahmed covered.
A good reaction by Gomes at second base. You can see on the replay there, just kind of froze in his tracks, which is what you're taught to do as a base runner. Freeze on a line drive with less than 2 outs, and Gomes executed it perfectly and stayed out of the double play.
And again, with the shift on there, Ahmed in a different spot, so he was a little further away from the bag than he might normally be, and they're not able to double off Gomes. Naquin, 283 and 2 homers, the left fielder. They weren't sure he was going to make the team coming out of spring training, but he is here. Been a little bit of a disappointing run for Naquin last couple of years. Last season, only 40 big league plate appearances. Bothered by slumps and a lower back problem. Had a terrific rookie season 2 years ago. Last year, spent most of his time at AAA Columbus. Fastball missed, 2 balls and 1 strike. Taijuan Walker's previous outing was last Thursday against the White Sox. He got up to 90 pitches in 5 2/3. Gave up 3 runs, 8 hits. He struck out 7. Taijuan appears on track to start the opener of that Dodgers series after the Sunday off day this week, which is yeah, we got a Sunday off day. We go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Easter Sunday off, and then the Dodgers come in for a 3-game set. Taijuan figures to start that game Monday.
We were talking about it before the ball game. I don't think I have ever been off on an Easter Sunday in my life.
Well, here's something that makes 0 sense, and we were talking about this earlier. The Indians from here open up in Seattle. Now they play that Thursday opener in a game with a roof. Friday was left off, and they'll play Saturday and Sunday, which doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, having an off day to back up that opener when you've got a roof at Safeco Field. But that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, you can certainly understand why you would do it in places where the weather could be a factor on opening day, and come back the next day, you know, and have your opening day the next day. But with a roof, I don't get that.
So the Indians will just hang around Seattle on Friday, and they'll play Easter Sunday against the Mariners. Not a problem here, though. Outfield panel still closed. Roof is opened up. We'll keep going with Naquin. Taiwan last year a 3.49 ERA for the D-backs. That was a career best for him in his third full major league season. Yan Gomes, the catcher, at second. There's another one that's carved foul. One thing about Taijuan Walker, he was very good within the division. 8 of those 9 wins came against the National League West. Got an elite fastball, real good split finger pitch. He's worked on a cutter slider hybrid pitch. Sometimes it acts more like a cutter, sometimes more like a slider. He can manipulate the baseball. Swing and a miss. There's the high fastball. Second strikeout for Walker, 2 down.
Well, we know he's capable of doing that. I think that's an underused weapon for Taijuan Walker. That high fastball, so tough to catch up to that pitch, so tough to lay off of it as a hitter. And we know that Taijuan can blow it by guys up there around the letters.
Francisco Lindor grounded out to lead off the ball game. We are told that Jose Ramirez has a cut on his left middle finger, which is why he came out of the ball game. Replaced by Eric Gonzalez at third. Nice block by Alex Avila back there as the curveball's in the dirt.
You know, we were talking on our last telecast about blocking balls in the dirt, and catchers have a tendency to want to get over there and get fingers down as they block the ball, but instead Avila just goes to the backhand. That ball's way over there in the left-handed batter's box. There's very little chance that you're going to be able to get out there in good blocking position and square your shoulders. So if you have to reach across and backhand while you're shifting, I think that's just fine, especially with the way the mitts are nowadays. Very flexible, very much like a first baseman's glove, as opposed to the old donut mitts where you needed 2 hands to catch everything. Alex just picked that ball out of the dirt like a first baseman.
He moves pretty quickly for a guy who has been nicknamed Slow-Mo by David Peralta. Lindor lifts one in the air to right center field. AJ's over there. And Taijuan Walker puts up a third scoreless inning. D-backs coming up. 50-50 charity raffle presented by Arizona Lottery from home, along with all of us here at Chase Field. Tickets can be purchased online during every home game at dbacks.com/50-50 raffle. And the winning numbers will be revealed during the D-backs live post-game show. This is your chance from home to win half the pot here at Chase Field and help kids in our community. No score as we start the third. Taijuan Walker leads it off against Cleveland's Trevor Bauer.
Diamondbacks electing not to use the designated hitter today. The Indians do have a DH in their lineup. Obviously, the National League pitchers have to get ready to swing that bat, and I'm sure Taijuan was looking forward to getting his hacks in today.
Yeah, Taijuan had a long home run here out to left field last year. Really, Torey Lovullo waited until the last week to begin having his pitchers hit, taking no chances. So everybody's pretty much just had one turn through the rotation this spring when they've taken some hacks.
Yeah, they've gotten some practice in the cage, I'm sure, the pitchers, especially with their bunting, but also swinging away, trying to do some damage. But to actually get out on the field and get to swing that bat, that's a whole different story for a pitcher.
Taijuan lifts a slider in the air to right field for Chisenhall. Here is David Peralta. We haven't seen David the last few games. He was scratched from the original starting lineup here last night. He's had a sore thumb after kind of jamming his hand the other day. But back in there today, that's good to see. And he was going to be the leadoff man for Torey Lovullo this year. Torey saying he likes a leadoff hitter that can impact the baseball. Doesn't necessarily need a guy who's going to get up there and foul off a whole bunch of pitches and get on base and steal bases and that kind of thing. So they're breaking from prototype just a bit with David Peralta, but they like the energy he brings to the top of this lineup.
Yeah, real good base runner, not necessarily a base stealer. He will get his share of stolen bases, but a really good base runner, going first to third, scoring from first on an extra base hit.
Get a guy up there that can do some damage. Charlie Blackmon, it's worked out pretty well for Colorado.
Yeah.
We'll see Blackmon here Thursday on opening night. Patrick Corbett against the Rockies' John Gray. There's Patrick, a well-deserved opening day honor for him. Change up from Bauer, and it's 2-2.
Boy, Bauer's had a really good changeup today. That's not one of his go-to pitches, but really using it a lot today, maybe because it is his last start in spring training and he wants to refine that pitch a little bit more. And a really good weapon for him here today.
40 pitches, 27 for strikes. Well, everybody knows about Trevor Bauer's history here, a Diamondback draftee. First round selection, the third pick in the 2011 draft out of UCLA, and made his big league debut the following season at the age of 21. But some growing pains, forced to trade to Cleveland after that 2012 season. And last year Bauer finished 7th in the American League in strikeouts, 17 wins, only one shy of the league lead. A.J. Pollock on deck, full count on Peralta, 3-2. Spots the fastball, 5 strikeouts for Bauer. Second time he's gotten Peralta today.
He gets his third strikeout on a fastball. Just rears back and throws it to that outer third of the plate. He's mixed in so many off-speed pitches, especially early in the count. I think he's caught the Diamondbacks maybe anticipating an off-speed pitch in those 2 strikeouts, and he's been able to sneak that fastball in there.
A.J. doubled down the left field line his first time up. Starts him off with a curveball. There's that heater from Bauer, and it's 1-1. In the hole, Gonzalez in front of Lindor. And Trevor Bauer has retired 4 in a row. His first 1-2-3 inning. No score after 3. And secure the best seats for the D-backs 20th anniversary season with the D-backs mini plan. You can select any game this year, including opening day or next week's Dodgers series, upcoming holiday games. Take your pick. Visit dbacks.com/mini plan. Archie Bradley down there walking. We saw Archie use the bullpen cart when he came into the ball game last night. Gerard Dyson,
of course he did,
replaces A.J. Pollock in center field. The bullpen cart made its debut here last night. They have 2 of them, 1 for each bullpen. And it was a big hit. Everybody used it. That was a big question. Would guys use the cart? Would they not? Well, everybody was on board. Archie Bradley, Brad Boxberger, Yoshi Hirano. And I got to tell you, that's a sweet ride, that thing, too. That's a good looking. Right there it is. Nice whip.
I think it's going to be solely dependent on the performance after you climb out of the bullpen car.
That seems to be the consensus.
Yeah, if you get guys out, hey, this is all right. But you know, if you happen to get out there and get whacked around a little bit, I'll just run to the mound. Thank you.
Yeah, much is going to depend on whoever the first guy that goes out there in a game using that thing, how he does. But it's a nice piece of nostalgia the Diamondbacks have brought back this year. I remember the old days of the bullpen carts. Everybody loved those. Did they have one at Candlestick? What did they use?
No, the bullpens were, you know, just on the warning track in foul territory down the first and third baseline. So, you know, it was a short walk into the infield from there.
Hard to short, a one hopper to Ahmed. Long throw for Nick. And they retire Perez to open up the 4th. I thought maybe they'd have Crazy Crab drive it or something. You never know.
Well, I don't know that Crazy Crab had his driver's license. He could barely walk, for crying out loud.
A mascot so controversial, somebody made a documentary about it. They'll put the shift on for Jason Kipnis, who struck out to win the 1st. Slow curveball from Taiwan. What was the problem again with Crazy Crab? Why didn't that work?
Well, they took a poll of Giants season ticket holders and some casual fans that came out to some games, and over the course of I don't know how long, they determined that the fans decided they didn't want a mascot. And so the Crazy Crab was kind of the anti-mascot. We're going to put him out here, and we encourage you to throw things at him and boo him. This poor guy, you want to talk about a tough gig. he would come running out that bullpen door down the right field line, and immediately people would start booing and throwing, you know, hot dog wrappers and cups of ice at him. He'd pop out of his little hole down there 2 or 3 times in the ball game and dance around in front of the fans, and they would just litter the field with stuff.
A 4-pitch walk to Kipnis. I remember the documentary that they did on the guy who was Crazy Crab. They tracked him down, and he took it seriously because he was a performance artist.
Right, yeah. An actor.
He wasn't
trade.
Yeah, he didn't consider himself a guy in a suit. He was there to perform. Didn't quite work out, I think, as he expected. Here's Gonzalez, who came on for Jose Ramirez. Ramirez again had to leave with a cut on his left middle finger, we are told. So it's Gonzalez at third.
All those fans in Giants land love that Crazy Crab.
Not so much.
Not so much.
Eric Gonzalez, 60 games with Cleveland last year, .255 hitter. Plays all over the field, second base, shortstop, third base, the outfield as well. That's toward the seats along the right field line, and everybody runs out of room.
You know, you were asking me about Chris Owings and his role as the super utility guy this year, and I think we're seeing a lot more and more teams looking for that guy who can not only maybe play corner outfield, but you can bring him in and play him in the infield as well. I mean, it used to be you carried an extra outfielder who was only an outfielder. You carried an extra middle infielder who could play short. You carried an extra middle infielder who could play second. I think now teams, because they carry more pitchers, are looking for those guys who can not only play an outfield position, but maybe even come in and play infield if you needed them to. That's why Chris Owings is seemingly perfectly suited for that job. You can really basically put him anywhere on the field.
Well, there are so many guys, if you look at some of these major league rosters, who fill that role, and Ben Zobrist was the one that Torey Lovullo mentioned, but you've got Kike Hernandez with the Dodgers, and Hernan Perez in Milwaukee, Pat Valaika in Colorado. Jose Ramirez here for the Indians filled that role for a while. It just makes sense, as you said, with teams going with these big bullpens. It's a thin bench down there, so you need guys that can do more than one thing. 12 or 13 pitchers, doesn't leave you a lot of room for backup infielders and outfielders.
There was a time in this game, and not that long ago, it seems like a long time ago, where the question was, are we going to carry 9 or 10 pitchers this year?
It's amazing, isn't it? This is bounced over the mound. Ahmed steps on the bag for one, and they turn the double play. Second double play behind Taijuan Walker, who's worked 4 scoreless against the Indians. Here in the 4th inning. D-backs fans, baseball is finally here. We are set to go Thursday, and it's on MLB.tv. You can watch select D-backs games live on your favorite supported devices. Blackout and other restrictions apply for regular season games, so visit MLB.tv for all the details. Goldie leads off the 4th against Trevor Bauer. No score, each team with 2 hits. On a nice sunny cool day here in the Valley of the Sun. Kept waiting for the big spring warm-up when we'd see, you know, mid-80s, 90s. We had that in January. We didn't get it in March. Something's amiss. Goldie struck out his first time up. Bauer has 5 strikeouts. He's set down the last 4 he's faced. Did you see the video of Goldie getting hit in the head the other day?
No, I did not see that. I heard about it, but when I saw he stayed in the game and took a couple more at bats after that and declared himself fine, I just kind of ignored it.
It was so horrifying you don't even want to think about it. But playing in a minor league game against the Rockies in a backfield Saturday at Salt River, took one off the helmet. It kind of grazed the helmet and knocked it off his head. But as you said, he said he was just fine, stayed in the game and had some more at bats. But boy, you just shudder to think about that. And I imagine as a manager, when you're playing these types of games, you just want to get them done so everybody's in one piece.
Yeah, I mean, you're always trying to win. I don't care if it's a spring training game or a backfield B game or a regular season game. You're trying to win. You're trying to do what you can out there to win a ball game, as Goldie grounds out to short to start the inning. But you get down to this time of spring, and I think every manager in the back of their mind is just praying, please let us get through today with everybody intact.
Zach Greinke looked outstanding last night. Greinke threw 75 pitches, 55 for strikes. 6 innings of scoreless baseball and gave up only 1 hit. Coming off that groin problem, he still looks to be on track to start here Saturday against Colorado. Jake Lamb. And of course, everybody saw the Steven Souza Jr. diving attempt that strained a pectoral muscle, so Souza will begin the season on the DL, but they don't think he'll be out too long. Randall Delgado still battling an oblique. Randall will open the season on the DL, but he has been throwing.
They threw a 25-pitch bullpen on Saturday over at Salt River Fields. And in other news, Shelby Miller is expected to throw a bullpen today. I was looking down there. I wasn't sure if it was Shelby or not. Somebody threw a bullpen session that drew a lot of attention this morning. I'm assuming it was Shelby.
That was a big moment for Shelby when he threw his first bullpen the other day. I think it was last week, coming off the Tommy John surgery. It was such a big moment for him. He flew his family in so they could be with him just to watch him throw 15 pitches. That's how much it meant to him and how much it means to Shelby to get back out there. And if he can come back when they think he will be, which is about mid-season, that's going to be quite a mid-season acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
Something to think about for down the road. 1-2 on Jake Lamb. Bauer spiked his slider. It's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ketel Marte with one of the 2 D-backs hits is on deck. He's singled to lead off the second. Full count, 3-2.
Went through them all that time. Jan Gomes just putting down suggestions for Trevor Bauer. Didn't see what he liked, so we'll start over again here.
Well, Bauer is usually on his own program. He has been erratic, to say the least, over his 5 seasons in Cleveland. Tons of talent, but very little consistency. Led the league in walks 3 years ago, but the walk numbers have dropped over the past 2 seasons. And last year, Bauer averaged 10 strikeouts for every 9 innings pitched. He really put it together last season. Won 17 games. He's running out of fingers here.
Yeah.
All right, let's start over again.
I've been thinking about throwing a knuckleball. Yeah, but we don't have a sign for that.
Nope.
He wants to go fastball. There you go. Fastball away.
And he missed with it, his first base on balls.
That's one of those things where pitchers will occasionally say, you know, I need a catcher to hang the right finger so I can stay in a rhythm out here on the mound. But he had to call timeout twice because he wasn't getting the pitch he wanted. Ultimately, they got to that fastball away, but by then he missed wildly over in the right-handed batter's box. And that's what pitchers will complain about sometimes with catchers that aren't good calling signs. You have to stand out there and shake your head so long you forget what pitch you wanted to throw.
Here's Ketel Marte. Well, D-back fans will certainly remember Trevor Bauer's debut when he was shaking off Miguel Montero most of the afternoon, and that caused some problems and some conflicts. Guy making his major league debut, one shake off after another. That didn't sit well with Miggy.
I know from experience that can get between your ears as a catcher as well. I mean, you know, you do your homework, you study the opposing team, their strengths and weaknesses, you know your own pitcher and his strengths and weaknesses, you know the game situation, you have an idea what pitch you think should be called. And some pitchers are going to shake you off even if it is the right pitch. And that's when you get a little frustrated. Okay, I've done my homework. I think I know what we're supposed to do right here, but you've got something else in mind, so we'll go with your plan since you're the pitcher and the numbers are going to go on your baseball card, and then you better execute your pitch.
Marte rolls one into right field. Jake Lamb digging for third, and he's in there. Ketel Marte 2 for 2.
Scooped it. Had to go down and get this one. That's a changeup way down. Caught it right off the end of the bat. A real wristy swing that time, but finds a hole on the right side, putting Diamondbacks on the corners with only one out in the inning.
Alex Avila will be the hitter. Avila struck out looking his first time. Gonzalez, the third baseman near the bag, the only defender on the left side of the infield. Speaking about shaking off signs and trying to stick to game plans, everybody is going to have to be more coordinated with that, with the limit on mound visits this year. You only get 6.
And pitchers are going to be expected to self-correct out there on the mound a little bit. They're not going to get the assistance that they've gotten from their catcher or their infielders from time to time coming in, giving them words of encouragement or just giving them a little pause out there on the mound before throwing that next pitch. They're going to have to self-correct out there this year. They're not going to get visits from their psychologists across the infield.
Now the umpires can decide if the catcher and the pitcher just can't get together on the side. They can give him an extra mound visit or 2 if they think it's going to cause a problem. But the limit is supposed to be a hard 6.
Well, it definitely has made teams focus on getting and giving signs much more efficiently, much more deceptively than they ever have in the past. Torrey was talking about that this morning.
Sign stealing is rampant all over the big leagues with all the video and everything. And that's what most of these conferences seem to be about.
Changing signs, especially with the runner at second base. Catcher obviously has to go through a sequence of signs so that guy at second can't just peer in and see what pitch is coming. But when you get a guy on the mound that shakes off with the runner at second base, and you're forced to go through another sequence of signs and then another sequence of signs, that's where the game really gets slowed down.
Our director Brian Moss giving us a shot of the scoreboard here that keeps track of the mound visits, much like you keep track of timeouts at a basketball game on the scoreboard. They're up there, each team with 6 so far.
And so many times the visits to the mound were just a momentum breaker. You know, the other team was starting to make some noise. Maybe your pitcher was starting to nibble a little bit. They just break the momentum. Somebody run out there and talk to him for 15 or 20 seconds, and then we'll start over again.
Peter Gammons wrote a column in The Athletic today, It said in Game 7 of the World Series there were 90 mound visits.
Wow.
Seems a bit much. Well, that's Game 7 of a World Series. Granted, you're going to be a little more flexible, but something had to be done.
And 89 of them were Wilson Contreras.
The Wilson Contreras rule, as it should come to be known. Chris Owings on deck, full count on Avila. Lamb at third, Marte at first, and 1 out. Diamondbacks have not been super aggressive on the bases this spring. They've picked up the pace a bit in the last week or so. But you remember last year how aggressive they were on the bases the first 6 weeks of the season. Everybody was off and running.
It was a track meet first couple months of the season. And then the counter punching started. Throws to first base, pitch outs. Pitchers would just hold the ball on the mound.
You mean like that?
Yeah.
Marte takes off. Avila hits it into the shift. And he'll get a run home as Lamb crosses, and it's 1-0 D-backs.
Well, the fact that the Diamondbacks started the runner there at first base, Ketel Marte, kept them out of the double play and allowed that run to score.
So 2 outs, Marte at second, and the batter is Chris Owings. He reached on an error his first time. You mentioned the throws over to first. Once they get this mound visit thing down and everybody feels comfortable, that's going to be the next thing that people want to see change. And I don't know what you do there. First pitch swing, and CO hits it deep to center. It backs up Zimmer, but he's got room. We are through 4 at Chase Field in the spring finale. The D-backs lead the Indians 1-0. As we start the 5th inning, the D-backs home opener at Chase Field is Thursday, fans, against the Rockies. All fans will take home a rally towel courtesy of Leslie's Pool Supplies and an opening day schedule magnet. That's courtesy of Pepsi. Get your tickets. There's still some left. dbacks.com. A rematch for the Rockies. Beautiful day to be at the ballpark here in the spring finale. As Yonder Alonso, the Indians' first baseman, leads off the 5th against Taijuan Walker. Some defensive changes behind him. Alonso hit into a double play his first time up. There's a strike. Devin Marrero takes over at third, replacing Jake Lamb. Daniel Descalso's at first, as Goldie gets the rest of the day off. Slow curveball from Taijuan, and it's 0-2. Here's Devin Marrero, the former Sun Devil, in at third, just acquired the other day from the Red Sox. Ramon Flores was sent to Boston. Descalso at first. Devin Marrero, from what we're told, is a tremendous defensive infielder.
I've heard from my scouts in Boston that this guy is a really, really good infielder no matter which position he finds himself playing.
Sure enough, new guy in there, and the first one finds him as Alonso bloops it just over his head. It is remarkable how often that happens. Yeah, Marrero was drafted in the first round by Mike Hazen and Jared Porter when they were in the Red Sox front office out of ASU. That was several years ago. Got a pinch runner for Yonder Alonso. That might be Refsnyder. Well, we have two number 30s. Boy, it's such a shame that spring is over. That's Mark Mathias creating some confusion for your staff up here because he's got the same number as Tyler Naquin. So Mathias running for Alonso at first. Chisenhall swings through that one. It's 0-2.
I can't remember exactly what year it was, but Billy Martin was managing the Oakland A's down here in the Cactus League, and they had invited so many non-roster players to camp. They had guys wearing triple-digit numbers in spring training.
I would prefer that than two number 30s. There is Mark Mathias. Both these ball clubs have a whole bunch of minor league guys here, and we assume it'll be a minor leaguer parade from this point on. Everybody wanted to just get out of these games healthy. Broken bat bloop, and this one's going to drop as well. Dyson picks it up. Mathias heads for third. Base hit for Lonnie Chisenhall, and he'll come onto the ball game.
The flare to the outfield. Little cutter got in on the hands. You can see the splinters flying there at home plate as Chisenhall made contact. Little floater that drops in front. Dyson bobbled it momentarily. Had no play at third base anyway.
Clark
Scolmario will be the pinch runner for Lonnie Chisenhall. Scolmario. He said hopefully. Here's Yan Gomes, the catcher. Scolmario.
Partner, you remember former teammate of mine, Atlee Hammaker, left-handed pitcher.
Of course, yeah.
Started the All-Star game for the National League in 1983. Yan Gomes married Atlee Hammaker's daughter. There's all kinds of connections in baseball.
Yan Gomes, one of the few major league players from Brazil. As baseball is catching on there, Brazil has some World Baseball Classic programs they've been running in recent years. Barry Larkin's been really involved with that. I remember Atlee Hammaker because he wore number 14, which was unusual for a pitcher.
Very unusual. Gave up the first grand slam in All-Star game history to Fred Lynn. Yeah.
So it's Mathias at third and Scolmario at first. 2 on, no outs. Bounce to shortstop. Ahmed Marte for one. High throw. Descalso not able to hang on, and Mathias scores to tie the ball game.
That was going to be a tough double play. Nick had to go way into the hole. Marte does a nice job of avoiding the runner. Unfortunately, the throw a little bit high to Daniel Descalso. If the 6'4" Paul Goldschmidt were over there at first base, it probably would have been a double play.
So a 1-1 ball game. One out now in the 5th inning, and here's the center fielder Bradley Zimmer. Zimmer lined out to first his first time up. Gomes remains in the game. The catcher still running at first. Bradley Zimmer, a guy who's getting a chance this year. He was a rookie last season at 241, 8 homers. First round pick out of the University of San Francisco in the 2014 draft. Played just over 100 games with Cleveland as a rookie last year. Fastball from Taiwan. Missed it. It's 3 balls and no strikes. Walker at 76 pitches, no action as of yet in the D-back bullpen.
I mentioned that Torrey perhaps would try to shorten up Taijuan Walker a little bit today, given this is his last start in spring training before the regular season, but he will have an extra day before his start against the Dodgers. So yeah, maybe Torrey's going to roll with Taijuan a little bit here. Nobody warming up in the bullpen yet.
Taijuan got up to 90 pitches in his last start Thursday against the White Sox. There's the strike. Full count, 3-2.
Change up.
And hard to right. Owings is there.
Left fielder Tyler Naquin.
Good jump out there by Chris Owings. Not a surprise. He gets such great jumps on balls in the infield when he has very little time to react. Out there in right field, he gets the same quick jump. And with his speed, he's able to run down just about everything.
Tyler Naquin, the left fielder. Look out, Taijuan, right back up the box. Ahmed behind the bag. Indians get the equalizer. We're tied at 1. Sports is proud to team Up with Girls Inc., inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold. A combination of lasting mentoring relationships, safe pro-girl environments, and research-based programming equip girls to lead healthy lives, break the cycle of poverty, and become leaders in their communities. Visit foxsportsupports.com to learn more. Trevor Bauer back out there for his 6th inning of work in a 1-1 ball game, or pardon me, his 5th inning of work. Defensive changes behind him. Gonzalez moves from 3rd to 1st. Mark Mathias takes over at 3rd base. Scolamario is the new right fielder, and Rajay Davis is in center. Nick Ahmed grounded out his first time up, leads off the 5th. Slow breaking ball misses. It's 1-0. Well, it'd be nice to see Nick be able to stay healthy for a full season. He has just been clipped by the injury bug the last 2 years. And he's had some major injuries at that, 2 last year. Of course, he was hit by a Trevor Rosenthal fastball at the end of June, broke his right hand. And then he was rehabbing at AAA Reno, hit by another pitch and broke his right wrist. So he played barely more than 50 games for the D-backs last year. I think if Nick Bob can stay healthy, he's come a long way with his offense. He just turned 28 years old about 2 weeks ago. This might be the year that he really puts it all together.
Well, I agree with you. If he stays healthy, that's always been the key for Nick. And you know, with his improved swing this year, at least in my eyes, an improved swing this year, I think he'll become much more of an offensive force than anybody ever anticipated. I think he's going to hit more home runs this year. Maybe not this at bat, but eventually.
Chased a curveball that time. That is 6 strikeouts for Bauer. Some action in the bullpen for the first time. The Sanderson forward bullpen. One of the new guys this year had a tremendous spring and made the ball club. The veteran Fernando Salas. He split last year with the Mets and the Angels, but he has looked very good this spring. Taiwan will take his at bat with 1 out in the 5th. Bullpen competition was crowded this spring. They brought in a whole bunch of veteran arms. And Salas was probably the best of the bunch. At least in terms of results, certainly. Michael Blazek looked very good. Chris Medlin as well. There's Mike Hazen, the GM, on the right there.
Yeah, very similar to what the D-backs did last year. Bring in a bunch of non-roster veteran bullpen guys and let them compete.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. We saw all kinds of names as Walker strikes out. Antonio Bastardo was here. Blazek still maybe in the mix. Of course, they had Savino Bracho, but they brought in some other guys. Neftali Feliz. TJ McFarland looks like he's going to make the ball club. Chris Medlin. Alberto Suarez, by the way, did not make the team. He was a Rule 5 pick. He was outrighted, so they're going to be able to keep Suarez in the organization. He'll report to AAA Reno. Peralta has struck out twice. He's down 0-1. Bauer now at 80 pitches, 51 for strikes. He has walked 1 and struck out 7. There's Tito Francona on the left. Gonzalez at first. So Bauer works a 1, 2, 3, 5th inning. We head to the 6th, tied at 1. Double play balls behind him. Taiwan 1 run on 4 hits in 5 innings. Our Chaz Roberts cool plays of the game.
Solid tune-up for Taiwan Walker today. Mentioned fastball command. He had that working most of the afternoon through some great change-ups in the ball game today. And 5 solid innings of work. Gave up only the 1 run. And that could have been erased had the Diamondbacks been able to turn that double play.
Well, here it is. The debut of the D-backs bullpen cart. Your on-track pitching change gives us Fernando Salas, the right-hander who made the team this spring. He was terrific all spring long. Last season between the Mets and the Angels, 61 appearances, a 5.22 ERA. 32-year-old right-hander. 8 seasons in the big leagues with the Cardinals, the Angels, and the Mets. And a minor league deal and won a big league job. Francisco Lindor leads off the Indians 6th. Carves one to third. Marrero is there. Devin Marrero figures to be the utility infielder, while Chris Owings is spending a lot of time in right field with Steven Souza Jr. injured, and Marrero can play second, short, third, an excellent defensive infielder.
Number 32, Mike Napoli.
Here is Mike Napoli, who will hit for Roberto Perez in the DH spot. Napoli will begin this year with AAA Columbus. He did not make the opening day roster. He could still be a factor with Cleveland this year. Terry Francona was quick to point out to reporters the other day that it was Napoli's decision to go to AAA, so that's what they're going to do and just see where it leads. He is 36 years old and hit under 200 in Texas last year, but he did belt 29 home runs.
Mike Napoli was trying to get the ball in the air before it was trendy.
That's very true, isn't it?
It really is. That backside breaks down. He's looking to get that ball in the air hard somewhere.
Well, no party at Napoli's just yet. See how long he lasts in Columbus, but boy, he's hit a few in his day. Just did get a piece of that breaking ball. It stays a ball and 2 strikes.
Yeah, good lesson for the young hitters out there that are watching the ball game today. Why aren't you in school? But here's a guy, Mike Napoli. He's made his living hitting the ball 500 feet, but with 2 strikes, he's choked up on the bat. Just trying to get a little better bat control, make sure he makes contact, try to put the ball in play, avoid that strikeout. Although he's not averse to striking out.
Always among the league leaders when he's playing a full season. Good point, Bob. Here's a guy that strikes out a ton, but he's able to extend this at bat down 2 strikes.
Choking up even an inch on the barrel of or on the handle of the bat rather gives you a little bit better control of the barrel. Don't have as much bat to swing. You can be a little quicker, wait a little bit longer on those borderline pitches.
And he launches one high in the air, deep left field, and there it goes. Mike Napoli. Don't count him out just yet, his second this spring.
Well, that's his goal just about every time he steps into the batter's box. Hit it hard in the air somewhere, and he gets a pitch. Center cut. Even with that choked up approach, he's able to get the barrel on it, and if he gets a barrel on it, it's going to go.
So Cleveland takes a 2-1 lead as Napoli takes Salas deep. That'll bring up Jason Kipnis. You were mentioning the other day, the last time we did a game, about Major league hitters that used a closed stance. Don't see many, but Kipnis might be on the list. See that front foot out sort of closed, almost facing the pitcher. Descalso at first. He'll take it himself, 2 down. Eric Gonzalez now. Well, that's the first run given up by a D-backs reliever who used the bullpen car. So I don't know if that's going to factor into the equation. Everybody that used it last night had a perfect, nice, clean inning. Eric Gonzalez. Get ready. Dennis Lamb was poised to make a catch there in our booth.
He was poised to do something.
Yeah,
but
duck, I think,
yeah.
actually. And of course is Dennis Lamb, star of the Dennis Lamb Show. Good to have our crew back. And a nice pregame chat with Ralph Kelso. Tony was here, Didi.
Well, the good thing is, unlike us, we don't have to retrain the crew. They're so good at what they do. They just show up and everything runs smoothly.
They've been working Coyotes and Suns games all winter long. In the air to center field. Gerard Dyson out there drifting over near the pool. But Mike Napoli, a home run, gives the Indians a 2-1 lead. Fans, you can commemorate Archie Bradley's wild card game triple. The Archie Bradley audio bobblehead. That's courtesy of Gila River Hotels and Casinos. Get yours coming up here Saturday, April 21st. The D-backs and the Padres. Visit dbacks.com. One of the biggest moments from a wild card game here at Chase Field last October. Andrew Miller. Speaking of Archie Bradley. Tor Lavello telling us today that we'll see Archie Bradley stay in the role that he had last year, which is kind of an Andrew Miller role. A guy that comes in, gets you some big outs in the 7th or 8th inning, doesn't necessarily close. And here is Andrew Miller to face Gerard Dyson. Andrew Miller close to the best in the business, a 1.44 ERA last year and just under 60 appearances. And a whole bunch of strikeouts. He is as dominant a reliever as there is. Second in the American League last year in relief ERA. Opponents hit only 144 against him. And he is an absolute postseason weapon. Certainly was 2 years ago for Terry Francona. Second base. Drew Magi. Magi. There he is, the new second baseman.
McGee.
Gift of the Magi, the whole thing. Luke Wakamatsu is a new shortstop replacing Francisco Lindor. Here's Luke Wakamatsu. Here's a look at Devin Marrero, acquired the other day from the Boston Red Sox. Former first-round pick by the Red Sox out of ASU. When Marrero was first called up to the big leagues with Boston, Torey Lovullo was his bench coach for the Red Sox. Mike Hazen, the D-backs GM, was among the group that drafted Marrero with the 24th pick in that 2012 draft. Squirts one the other way, but Scolomario is there, 2 outs.
First baseman, Daniel Descalso.
Daniel Descalso. Check swing foul.
Yeah, certainly there's some comparisons, as you mentioned, between Andrew Miller and his role with the Indians and Archie Bradley and what he did for the Diamondbacks last year. Andrew Miller was one of those guys, they kept trying to shoehorn him into a rotation, and as a starting pitcher, he had zero command. He would walk as many guys as he struck out. It wasn't until the 2012 season he became a full-time reliever and kind of had to work his way from the early innings of a ball game to the role he's in right now, which is you're going to pitch the most important innings late in the ball game, and has really flourished in this role. But you know, Archie Bradley came up as a starting pitcher, has made no secret of the fact he'd like to be a starting pitcher again at some point in his career, but for right now with this Diamondbacks team, Torey feels like the team is best suited having Archie do exactly what he did last year.
So Jorge De La Rosa warming up in the bullpen. He was just so valuable back there, Archie Bradley, last year. You've got Hirano, you've got Boxberger, who's done it before. It just seems almost silly to take Archie out of that role when he gets you so many critical outs in the 7th or 8th innings. And he can be a multiple inning guy as well. If you make him the closer, you take that away too. 2-2 on Descalso. You don't really take saves to arbitration anymore, so that's not that big a deal. So the people out there that are clamoring they should just make Archie the closer, well, somebody's got to get you those big outs when you need them late in ball games. And Archie was superb.
Yeah, and Torey was talking about that in his office today, that, and we know this because we see it every day, sometimes the big inning is the 7th or the 8th when you have to work your way through the teeth of the opposing lineup. And those are the innings when you want your best pitcher on the mound facing the best hitters on the other team.
And you've got a guy that you brought in Brad Boxberger, who a few years ago led the American League in saves, so he knows what he's doing back there. And Archie just was such a valuable part, not just to the bullpen, but to this ball club last year. You just sort of got to keep him where he is, at least to start the year. But it seems like, Bob, of all the pieces on a major league team, the bullpen sees the biggest evolution over the course of a season.
Yeah, usually so, depending on injuries, of course, but the bullpen is where you see guys come and go. Somebody's pitching effectively at the AAA level, maybe somebody up here is not doing the job. You might have a section of the schedule where you're facing a lot of teams with left-handed power hitters, and you might want to reach down to the minor leagues for a left-handed relief pitcher for that stretch of the season. Guys come and guys go depending on your needs and your health.
Ketel Marte, that's from the right-hand side against the lefty Miller. They figure Yoshi Hirano can get some outs in front of Archie Bradley. Then you go to Archie, and Boxberger will close.
And Torrey did tell us in his office also that, you know, Boxberger maybe 2 days, 3 at the most in a row, depending on how many pitches he has to throw to get through those appearances. But ideally, there's going to be a lot of situations where the Diamondbacks are looking at a 4 or 5 or 6 game winning streak, and somebody else is going to be called upon to close those games if Boxberger's been used for 2 or 3 days in a row. So nice to have options. Could be Archie, could be Hirano.
Boxberger has had some injuries the last couple of years. Marte knocks that one out to right field. And they strand the 2-out walk. We'll head to the 7th inning. D-backs trail the Tribe 2-1. The 2018 season coming up before Thursday's opener. And the D-backs trail Cleveland 2-1. What's next brought to you by CenturyLink. Opening day here Thursday night. Patrick Corbin against the Rockies' John Gray. Well-deserved honor, I think, for Patrick Corbin, given Zach Greinke's groin injury. Patrick, the longest tenured member of this Diamondbacks pitching staff.
He was slated to start opening day in Australia, if I'm not mistaken. That's when he injured his arm and had to have the surgery. But wait a long time for that opportunity to start opening day. And the reality is that if everybody stays healthy, all 5 starters are going to get their 31 or 32 starts. But there's something about opening day. Everybody wants to have at least one opening day start on their resume.
On track pitching change gives us the left-hander Jorge De La Rosa back with the ball club this year. Mathias. Mark Mathias, the third baseman, leads off the 7th. Diamondbacks will have Andrew Chafin, Jorge De La Rosa, and it looks like TJ McFarland from the left side of the bullpen this year. Nothing official as of yet. Marcus Wilson, who's looked impressive the last few games this spring, has taken over in right field for the D-backs. 1-2 on Mathias. That's yanked foul. We've got to look at some of the youngsters over the last week or so. Some guys that are pretty highly rated in D-backs minor league system. Guys like Pavin Smith and Drew Ellis and Marcus Wilson. Camden Duzenak, little infielder drafted out of Dallas Baptist High School, has looked good this spring as well. So it's nice to get to be able to put some faces with the names and the numbers.
And a good opportunity for the coaching staff and Torey Lavello to get eyes on some of these guys. I mean, they've read the reports. They've maybe seen some video on some of their young players at the minor league level, but to actually get them in a major league Cactus League game and get a chance to put eyes on them in person, that's very valuable.
Yeah, Anthony Greer, who was the D-backs top pick in the draft a few years ago, has made an appearance here or there as well. Jerry Nairn in the middle there, the bench coach, keeping track of everything. I don't think he's writing that in calligraphy. Full count on Matthias, 3-2. That's out of play. Clark Scolomario on deck. This is hit well, deep left field. Negron is out there, and he'll watch it go. Mark Matthias, a home run. It's 3-1 Cleveland.
Pretty good at bat right there by Matthias. Fouled off a couple of very tough borderline pitches. Finally gets a 91-mile-an-hour heater right there on the inside part of the plate. You could tell by the sound of contact that one had a chance to go.
Indians have out-hit the D-backs 6-3. They lead at 3-1. Clark Scolomario took over in right field.
I'll tell you another thing that changes toward the end of spring training, partner. I unofficially counted 4 scouts here today. A regular Cactus League game, there might be 25 or 30 scouts there, grading and evaluating every player on the field for both teams, the major league scouts. The guys you see at the end of spring training are more than likely advanced scouts, getting prepared for the Rocky series and the Dodger series. Yeah, plenty of seats available in the scout section today.
It's been crowded all spring long. De La Rosa behind 3-0. There's the strike. Diamondbacks able to hire Jason Parks to run their pro scouting department this year, coming over from the Cubs. Fastball's a strike, and it's full 3-2. Yan Gomes, the catcher, on deck. Do you remember what your first opening day was like? Because this is about the time of the week you start thinking about that stuff.
Well, mine was mid-season because I got called up after the player strike in 1981, and I have no recollection. I think I was just overwhelmed by the whole situation.
But what about an opener when they have the bunting and everybody's on the baselines getting introduced and all that?
I had one good opening day. A reporter from the Coshocton Tribune and the sports guy from the WTNS radio station flew out to San Francisco to watch our season opener and report back to the fans in Ohio. And I think I had a home run, a couple other knocks against the Padres that day.
Wow.
It was big news back in Coshocton. I think that was probably the last hit I got until June.
That's probably not in the budget there anymore. Fly a couple of guys out there to cover Brenly's opening day. Here's Yan Gomes. He's singled in the third.
Fans that have tuned in the past know I'm not a big fan of the hoopla. I mean, you know, for me, opening day is for the fans.
Gomes crushes one foul.
Whoa.
Back of the middle deck.
You know, the fans have been watching football or basketball or golf or however they amuse themselves in the offseason, waiting for baseball to start again. So for the fans to come out for opening day and have the bunting and whoever throws out the first pitch, a celebrity, and it's all this hoopla. And for the players, you just want to get into the grind. You just want to wake up in the morning and not know what town you're in, not know whether you have a day game or a night game. You just know you're going to go out and play baseball. Opening day obviously is not like that.
Well, we've been informed that Governor Ducey will proclaim March 29th as D-backs Day in the state of Arizona. As Gomes strikes out.
That just makes it official. Every day is D-backs Day in Arizona.
Should be. Yeah, Governor Ducey, along with Representative Chavez and Senator Fan, will proclaim March 29th as D-backs Day to celebrate the Diamondbacks' 20th opening day. Rajai Davis back with the Indians this year. Took over in center field for Bradley Zimmer. Davis part of the Indians' 2016 World Series run. Signed up for a return to Cleveland just as spring training camps opened up. Split last year between the A's and the Red Sox. Drive this one out to Marcus Wilson in right field. Indians add a run on the Matthias homer. D-backs trail at 3-1. Words of the governor, Greg Schulte. 20 years of D-backs baseball celebrated with a tremendous display in center field. Check that out here at Chase Field. Fans, you can receive 15% off at Chase Field in the team shop when you use the card by Gila River Casinos. That is a tremendous display that they've put together out there, and every Diamondback fan should go out there and have a look.
I haven't seen it yet myself. Can't wait to take a look.
Really, really well done. As we celebrate 20 years this year of D-backs baseball. Cody Allen, the closer, has come on to pitch for Cleveland as we start the home half of the 7th inning. It's a whole new battery. Jack Murphy takes over behind the plate for Yan Gomes. Alex Avila leads it off. The numbers on Allen last year, one of the best in the business. Of course, the Cleveland bullpen took a big hit when they lost Brian Shaw in his cut fastball. Shaw is now in Colorado, so we'll see plenty of him this year as the Rockies invested heavily in their bullpen, signing Wade Davis, Brian Shaw, each got big 3-year deals. So Terry Francona looking to make up some of Brian Shaw's big outs at the back end of his bullpen this year. They've got some youngsters like Nick Goody and others they think can pick up the slack.
Well, if you're Terry Francona, ideally the slack is picked up by your starters. Yeah, you get those guys to work a little deeper into the ball game, and you don't need that extra arm in the bullpen, but that's a big loss.
That was a trademark of Torey Lovello here last year. A lot more faith in his starting pitchers. Bullpen didn't get busy when a guy gave up a base hit or two. He stuck with his guys, and that really set the tone. And don't believe for a minute that the starting pitchers didn't notice. Avila belts it into center, a leadoff single. That's just his 4th hit this spring.
They anticipate a pinch runner here this late in the ball game for Alex Avila.
And here he comes. And the winner is Drew Ellis.
Right fielder, Marcus Wilson.
Ellis will run for Avila. Marcus Wilson, the right fielder. Marcus Wilson is a guy to watch, a 2nd-round pick by the D-backs out of high school in Gardena, California, in the 2014 draft. Last year, Class A Kane County, 295 and 9 homers, also stole 15 bases. He can really run. Marcus only 21 years old. He'll be 22 in August. 6'3", 175. Can't quite check his swing. Drew Ellis down there at first is another guy to keep your eye on. He was the Diamondbacks' 2nd-round pick in last year's draft out of Louisville. Played last year at Hillsborough. So we're getting a look at some of the future D-backs here this spring. Your minor league system, which was fairly barren when Mike Hazen's front office took over last year, made some real steps forward last season. It's going to be a process. Guys like Pavin Smith and Drew Ellis and Marcus Wilson and some others start to make some noise. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see Camden Duzenak yet, but I'm on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fun.
Shortstop.
Nick Ahmed now as Wilson strikes out.
Tough at bat there for Marcus Wilson. Borderline pitch at best for strike 3. Right out there off the outside corner. You get a veteran pitcher like Cody Allen on the mound pitching to a young minor league player, and he carved him up with a little help from Pat Hoberg behind the plate.
Well, it's probably not a bad thing that some of these games move along a bit. All in advance of Thursday's opening day. D-backs and Rockies here. Patrick Corbin and John Gray. Rockies will have John Gray, Tyler Anderson, and Airman Marquez for that 3-game series. Patrick Corbin and Robbie Ray start the first 2 games. Zach Greinke should be okay to start that 3rd game Saturday. There's Andrew Chafin in the Sanderson Ford bullpen. The Sheriff. Ahmed sends one out to left field. Naquin's out there to cover. 2 down. Christopher Negron now.
Left fielder, Christopher Negron.
You know, in this game we're all evaluated by numbers and your stats and what have you done so far. But that last at bat by Nick Ahmed right there, a line drive to left field. Now, even though it'll go in the book as an 0 for 1, you have to feel pretty good about that at bat. That's why some guys say, I don't really pay a lot of attention to the numbers in spring. I feel if I'm swinging at good pitches and making solid contact, I can't control anything after that. So put together a good at bat, get a good pitch to hit it hard. That's all you can really do, and that's what Nick Ahmed did in that last at bat, even though he's 0 for 1.
John Ryan Murphy, who's going to be the third catcher this year, is on deck. Pitcher spot is up next. 2-0 on Christopher Negron. Christopher again this spring has played just about everywhere you can except pitcher and catcher. Chris last year hit 300 at AAA Reno. 4 for 25 in his big league at bats with the D-backs. Played some shortstop, first base, second base, left field.
One of those utility guys that we've been talking about throughout the afternoon. You can basically put him anywhere on the field.
Did the same thing at Reno last year. Third base for Matthias. We are through 7. D-backs trail at 3-1. Available here at the Chase Field team shops. Every combination logo you can think of. As we start the 8th inning in the final game this spring, it's the Sheriff. Our on-track pitching change gives us the left-hander Andrew Chafin.
Kind of an inconsistent spring for Andrew Chafin. I don't think Torrey or Mike Butcher are too worried about Andrew Chafin. Just getting his arm in shape, building up some stamina. Command has been a little iffy at times.
Career highs last year with those 71 appearances and 61 strikeouts. Whole new battery. John Ryan Murphy takes over behind the plate, replacing Alex Avila. Drew Ellis will take over at third, and Devin Marrero slides over to shortstop. There's John Ryan.
Leading off for Cleveland.
Drew Ellis, the second-round pick last year at third, and Devin Marrero is the new shortstop replacing Nick Ahmed. Tyler Naquin has remained in the ball game from the start. The left fielder, he'll lead it off in the 8th. There was some discussion. I think you could classify it more almost as a threat that Andrew Chafin and Zach Godley would get together for the evening on the diamond held here the other night on Saturday and ride horses onto the field to kind of play up their country boy images. That one drops in front of Wilson, a leadoff single. That did not happen. And also Andrew was the first guy who chose not to come into the ball game in the bullpen cart. He ran in for the bullpen.
We noticed that. He just sprinted in like he always does.
Shortstop, Luke.
I think if it was one of those camouflage ATV things that you take for hunting, he might have ridden in that. But he's not riding the golf cart with a baseball cap on the roof. Wakamatsu. Oscar Gonzalez takes over for Naquin as the pinch runner. That one almost got the boys in the radio booth to our right. The moral compass, Mike Farron. In there with Tom Candiotti, the Governor Greg Schulte, Leo Gilmartin calling the game on D-backs radio. There they are.
Kendall Carter.
Mike Farron, star of stage and screen. Hey, he just does the pre and the post game show.
Oh, he's much more than that. He's a much bigger cog in the machine than that.
Well, when there's trouble, that's his go-to line. Hey, I just do the pregame show. Hear Mike nationally, of course, on Sirius Satellite Radio. Good to have him back along with Candy and the Governor. Leo set for another season of D-backs baseball.
Did you hear about the Governor's one-day vacation to Maui?
Oh, the dog got sick or
He
lost.
got lost.
I did hear about that. Yes.
Yeah, the Governor and his lovely wife went to Maui, and as soon as they got over there, they got a call from the dog sitter at home. The dog got out. We don't know where it is. He went right back to the airport, got on a plane, and flew home.
Well, as a new dog owner myself, I understand. The puppy kind of takes over things, even if you're in Hawaii. Long run. Who wants it? Marte tracks it down.
Oh, that turned into a double
And
play.
Gonzalez trips trying to get back to first, and they turn two.
Not sure where Gonzalez was going there. Got out into no man's land, and then just kind of stumbled. You see him in the back of the picture right there. He goes down to the ground. Andrew Chafin noticed it right away. He's backing up the play there at first as Descalso completes the double play.
Another chance for Mike Napoli, who homered his first time up off Fernando Salas in the 6th. D-backs put 3 infielders on the left-hand side. Andrew Chafin still has that sort of Papa Grande follow through with that front leg kick. Sort of that Cobra Kai sweep the leg thing he does. Well, didn't do it that time. Got kind of the back leg version there.
I think he was trying to throw an off-speed pitch right there and didn't want to go with his full follow-through. That was a very abbreviated. Usually it looks like, to me, like he's climbing over a fence.
Yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah, the right foot comes down in the landing area in the front of the mound, and then he releases the ball, and that left leg goes straight up in the air.
Third base for Drew Ellis. Bottom 8 on the way. Diamondbacks down 2. D-backs trail the Indians 3-1. Diamondbacks baseball brought to you by White Claw Hard Seltzer. the purest hard seltzer in the world. And a nice story here, the return of Evan Marshall at Chase Field.
Defensive team is for Cleveland. Remaining in the game.
And the Diamondback back here in Phoenix, trying to hook on with the Indians this spring.
Number 50, Evan Marshall.
So Evan Marshall will work the bottom of the 8th. John Ryan Murphy will lead it off for the D-backs. They've been out hit 7-4. They trail it 3-1.
I can remember Evan Marshall's time here when he initially got called up by the Diamondbacks. And I remember talking to him on a bus ride one day and said, "What do you think so far?" He says, "I haven't thrown this many changeups in my life."
Boy, when he first came up, made his debut in Milwaukee, got the win, and he had a tremendous rookie season. And then the following year had trouble and of course was hit by the comebacker, which turned out to be life-threatening while pitching for Reno. And he's on his way down the comeback trail. He had that heavy sinker his rookie year. You just couldn't do anything with it. His spring numbers so far with Cleveland this year. It was a really hard decision for Mike Hazen, Torey Lovullo, everybody involved. Who would be the third catcher, Chris Herman or John Ryan Murphy? And they just felt long term there was a little more upside with John Ryan. And as you mentioned, Bob, the need for Chris Herman's versatility just not quite as great with some of the maneuvering they've done with the roster. You've got other guys that can play other spots. We'll see Descalso and Avila play some first base. Chris Owings play everywhere. The addition of Gerard Dyson takes some outfield time away as well. And so they went with Murphy over Herman.
And Torey was telling us they were hoping that Murphy and Jeff Mathis would be joined at the hip this year, try to learn as much as he possibly could from the veteran Jeff Mathis, who's here because of his glove and what he does behind the plate. And they want Murphy to pick up a lot of those same habits and tendencies that Jeff Mathis has acquired over the course of his career.
D-backs staff saw a lot of John Ryan Murphy when many of them were in Boston and Murphy was a Yankee. John Ryan was a second-round pick by the Yankees in the '09 draft at a high school in Florida. And they always have liked the way he runs a game behind the plate. He's got an above-average throwing arm. He's considered a very good pitch framer. And they think the bat can come around as well. Akamatsu, tough play, and Murphy's aboard.
Center field, Gerard Dyson.
Second catcher today to leg out an infield hit.
That didn't get by you, did it? Speaking of foot speed, here's Gerard Dyson. He is a burner. Got a 2-year deal in the offseason with the Diamondbacks. 2 years, $7.5 million. 33-year-old free agent. Once a 50th round draft pick out of Southwest Mississippi Community College.
Evan Marshall still throwing hard, fastball sitting in the mid-90s, still has that really good changeup. I'm rooting for him. I don't know what the situation is over there in Cleveland and what kind of spots they have available in the bullpen, but you know, we know Evan Marshall, he's an easy guy to root for.
Tremendous guy. He and his wife Allie, their dog Butters. I remember when Evans first came back from the beaning and he had all this extra padding he had in his D-backs cap, and he would take you through it kind of. Squib shot the other way for Oscar Gonzalez. Another look now at Devin Marrero.
Third baseman, Devin Marrero.
Marrero took over at third base, now playing shortstop, and that's the way it's going to be for Devin Marrero, who can play just about every infield position.
And Marrero found himself in a situation in Boston With guys being out of options, Brock Holt was out of options, Marrero was out of options, Blake Swihart, their third catcher, was out of options. They had to make a decision, and the Diamondbacks, a beneficiary. They got themselves a really, really good utility player.
Yeah, they kind of have the same situation that we were just talking about. They have Brock Holt, who can play all over the field. They've turned Swihart into a utility guy. He was a catcher, and so there wasn't the need for the extra infield glove. Comes to shortstop, Wakamatsu, and they're able to turn the double play. We head to the 9th inning at Chase Field. D-backs trail the Indians 3-1. Easier for the pitchers coming in for the bullpen, but check out Curtis, our cameraman.
Go, Curtis!
Chasing the cart, the on-track bullpen cart. TJ McFarland coming on. Nice job, Curtis.
Outstanding.
Take the rest of the day off. Our third consecutive lefty. Here's TJ McFarland, the on-track pitching change.
I don't know about you, partner, but I've got some friends that can't ride backwards in a car or a bus or an airplane. They have to be facing forward.
Oh, yeah.
You know, pitchers have been coming in sitting in the back of the golf cart. I imagine if somebody had some car sickness, they'd have to sit up front next to the driver.
All things that have to be ironed out.
That's why we have analytics.
Well, the Diamondbacks, first team to bring back the bullpen cart. So far, so good. Magi, the second baseman, will lead it off against McFarland. As we hit the 9th. Final inning of the spring. What do you think about 3 lefties back there? That's got to be nice for Torey Lovullo.
Yeah, I think it's a real nice luxury to have, especially given the fact that Jorge De La Rosa can get righties out equally as getting lefties out. Same thing for TJ McFarland last year. You know, it's one thing to have a left-handed specialist in the bullpen that's going to come in and face one batter every other day. But it's another thing to have guys that you can bring in and work their way through a lineup once, maybe twice if necessary. Righties and lefties.
Yeah, TJ, we saw him get a start last year at Minnesota, so he can give you some length as well. Anthony Greer is taken over in center field. This is Marrero at short. So Greer, the new center fielder. Vinicio, the new second baseman. Jose Vinicio.
Yeah, we talked earlier in the ball game about the humidor effect, that the Diamondbacks storing the baseballs in the humidor here at Chase Field this year, and the effect that that's going to have on batted balls. It's going to change the defense too.
How so?
Well, we've seen it a little bit here today with the Indians outfielders playing extremely shallow, especially on the corners. If the ball's not going to carry the way it has in the past few seasons, it seems to make a lot of sense to cheat in a step or two and try to take away some of those humpback liners that drop just beyond the infield and in front of the outfielders.
Now, you were talking about some of the advanced scouts as Gonzalez dunks one into left center. I would think that teams that are going to come in here will be paying close attention to the humidor effect in the early games.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, to the point where I'm not trying to give away any secrets here, but the Diamondbacks in their workout yesterday before the game against the Indians were working on their leads and jumps at third base on squeeze plays. I don't think we did a squeeze play, maybe one all year last year when Chris Owings got his finger broken.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, the Diamondbacks just didn't use a lot of trickery offensively. They didn't bunt a lot. They didn't hit and run a lot. They did steal a lot early in the season, but even that slowed down in the second half. But with the humidor ball and home runs figuring to be down this year, the Diamondbacks, one of 30 teams that may decide to mix in a little small ball depending on the situation and the personnel.
Something you don't think about. Okay, it's not going to travel as far with the humidor on the home runs, but what effect does it have when you try and bunt the baseball? Trying to sew up all the little details before Thursday's opener. Mathias now the third baseman. He homered his last time up off Jorge De La Rosa. Opening day coming up Thursday. 2018, the first time since 1968 that every major league team plays its season opener on the same day. Part of the new scheduling format negotiated between MLB and the Players Union. Got some more off days this year. March 29th, the earliest opening day in Major League history, outside of some of the international games like the D-backs had in Sydney 4 years ago.
You know, we've talked a lot about staying healthy throughout spring training. Well, it's good to see Steve Gilbert back at the ballpark today. He's had some health issues of his own this spring, but drawing near the end of camp here, just an inning away, and Stevie's out there in uniform ready to go. Good to have him back.
Coming off a little hernia situation. A lot of the D-backs players sent him video messages, just mercilessly making fun of him for not being here. He is a fixture around the D-backs clubhouse. Steve Gilbert, MLB.com. Full count, 3-2. Scola Mario on deck. In the air, pretty deep right field. Marcus Wilson gets over there. 2 down. Cover a lot of ground in that outfield right now with Anthony Greer in center and Marcus Wilson in right. We don't see the Giants for a while yet. The Giants will go with, how about this, Ty Block as their opening day starting pitcher. Of course, they have the injuries to Madison Bumgarner and Jeff Samardzija, so Bruce Bochy's rotation decimated before the season even begins. Indians bullpen. Tyler Olson is the left-hander. Mitch Brown, the right-hander. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Scolamario. Jack Murphy, the catcher. Used to have a stadium named after him. He would be next. Swing and a miss. Strikeout for TJ McFarland. Bottom 9 coming up. Diamondbacks trail at 3-1. Walker and Trevor Bauer. Indians got home runs from Mike Napoli and Mathias to take a 3-1 lead. So the D-backs down 2 as we start the home half of the 9th inning. Against the new Indians pitch, the left-hander Tyler Olson takes over.
Leading off for the D-backs,
and Daniel Descalso will lead it off.
Solid numbers for Olson last season in limited duty. Only 30 appearances for the Indians. Stranded 15 of the 17 inherited base runners on the season last year.
Manfred Greer, who was the Diamondbacks' first pick of the 2016 draft out of Auburn, is on deck. So we'll get a look at Manfred Greer coming up. 22-year-old. Daniel Descalso figures to see some time at second base this year when Ketel Marte slides over to shortstop, should they decide to sit Nick Ahmed against a tough right-hand pitcher. One of the options that Torey Lovullo has on his bench. Well, Olson really brings it sidearm from the left-hand side as Descalso knocks it into right, a leadoff single.
Nice at bat right there by Daniel Descalso. He took a called strike on a breaking ball that started right at his right hip and broke over the inside corner. You may have noticed he dropped his bat immediately after that pitch, but when he got it again later in the at bat, he was ready for it. Another sidearm breaking ball that hangs over the plate, able to bang it into right field for a base hit.
Well, Terry Francona had the right-hander Mitch Brown up and ready in the bullpen. Greer coming up, Brown coming in. Back after this. Diamondbacks have a man on here, tying run at the plate, no outs, bottom 9. And Brown will face the D-backs' first pick in the 2016 draft, the right-hand hitting center fielder Anthony Greer. Here's a good look at Anthony Greer, 6'1", 180.
Now batting center field.
Drafted in the first round of the 2016 draft out of Auburn University. Last year, Class A Kane County in the Midwest League, hit .251 with 4 home runs. Camden Duzenak into pinch run for Descalso. Saw Duzenak, who's just a little dude out there, belt a home run the other day at Salt River Fields. Duzenak was a 9th round pick by the D-backs in the draft last year out of Dallas Baptist. 5'9", 170, 23 years old. 1-1 on Anthony Greer, his numbers last year at Kane County. Nice to get a look at some of these D-backs draftees. Drew Ellis, the 2nd round pick out of Louisville, is on deck. Full count on Greer, 3-2.
Good patience for the youngster right here. It's kind of unusual to see a minor leaguer playing late in a Cactus League game and taking pitches at all. You figure you're not going to get many opportunities. Only the 5th Cactus League game that Greer's played in. You think they're going to come off that bench hacking. But he's worked himself into a full count here. Fouls off a borderline pitch to stay alive.
There is Drew Ellis, the 2nd rounder last year out of Louisville. Duzenak on first, full count on Greer, 3-2. Missed upstairs. First 2 have reached in the D-backs 9th.
That's a really good at bat by the young man. Anthony Greer draws the base on balls, brings a potential winning run to the plate.
And that is Drew Ellis.
Third baseman, Drew Ellis.
Last year, just under 50 games with the Hillsboro Hops. 227 and 8 home runs. Duzenak at 2nd. Greer's the tying run at 1st. In the air along the right field line and drifting out of play. Breaking ball got away, 1-1. Missed with a fastball. Nope, strike 2, 1-2.
Oh, you were right the first time.
I had a feeling, but
yeah, that sinking
Hoberg,
fastball, yeah, just kind of died off the corner there at the very end, but got the call once again.
Murphy behind the plate. It's 2-2. stop Greer at third. Ellis has an RBI double, and the D-backs are back within one.
Inside out swing drives that ball right down the right field line. Anthony Greer off like a shot at first base. He wanted to score on this ball, but with nobody out in the inning, Tony Perez-Chica threw up the stop sign. 1 run in, runners at second and third.
Well, this would be a nice way to end spring training. How about a Marcus Wilson walk-off? Marcus, second-round pick in the 2014 draft at a high school in California. Last year, Class A Kane County hit .295 and 9 homers.
That's our first catcher visit to the mound of the day.
Well, they only have 5 left.
There we go.
Nice work by our crew here.
So we have that advantage over the Indians.
We got that going for us. 2-0 on Wilson. Fastball missed. 3 balls and no strikes. Jose Vinicio on deck. Bases are full of D-backs and still nobody out. Second walk in the inning issued by Brown.
Now batting, second baseman, Jose Vinicio.
Jose Vinicio. The switch hitter. Indians bring the infield in. You've got Greer, the tying run at third. Ellis the winning run at second, and Wilson at first. See Vinicio's numbers last year. Playing in the Chicago White Sox minor league system. Out of play, and it's 1-2. Don't forget, fans, opening night coming up Thursday. Fox Sports Arizona coverage begins at 5. A special 2-hour D-backs live pregame show extravaganza. A cavalcade of stars from outside the Game 7 grill here at the ballpark. Only on Fox Sports Arizona, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. 5 o'clock pregame show, 7:10 first pitch. Comes to second base. They get the force at home. So Greer is cut down at the plate. And that's the first out.
Left fielder,
Christopher Negron now. Saw Mark Grace and Brandon Webb outside with Jody before the ball game today. Gracie and Webby will be part of our pre and post game shows all year on Fox Sports Arizona.
Part of the cavalcade of stars.
Todd Walsh, Jody Jackson, the whole crew will be here Thursday. Starts at 5 o'clock on Fox Sports AZ.
It just popped into my head. I wonder what kind of defensive shift the Diamondbacks will use on DJ LeMahieu.
Will we see the return of the LeMahieu shift?
The opposite field shift. If you weren't worth it last year at the end of the season, Torey Lovullo and the Diamondbacks started to play a shift as if it were a left-handed pull hitter for Rocky second baseman DJ LeMahieu, who's a right-handed hitter, but hits a lot of balls to the right side. So they loaded up the defense on the right side. And I think it got in LeMahieu's head a little bit.
Seemed to for a bit anyway. A.J. Hinch was talking about some four-man outfield lineups the Astros are going to use this year. Swing and a miss by Negron. It's 2-2. They may go to a four-man outfield from time to time. Dave McKay is the genius that came up with the LeMahieu shift. He had all the data to back it up and convinced Torey we need to play some guys this way, and it worked out. Pop straight up in the air. Murphy will have a look behind the screen. And it's out of play. So the opener coming up Thursday. Patrick Corbin against the Rockies' John Gray. The pomp and the circumstance and the bunting and the flyovers and the whole thing. D-backs have a whole bunch of festivities planned for the opener. In the hole at shortstop. They get one. They do get the out at second, but Ellis scores from third. Wilson into third. So he's the winning run 90 feet away with 2 outs for John Ryan Murphy. Negron takes off uncontested. Only run that matters is standing at third. Well, we opened the season here last year against the Giants with a Chris Owings walk-off single. Let's close spring training this year with a John Ryan Murphy walk-off. Brown behind 2-0.
The Diamondbacks will open the season here at Chase Field for the 7th straight season. Pretty remarkable, but you consider the conditions, the weather this time of year in Arizona, it makes all the sense in the world.
Murphy drives one out to Gonzalez in left field, but he's able to run it down. I think they're going to call it.
Looks like the umpires are walking off. That's good enough for me.
So we'll end spring training with a 3-3 tie against Terry Francona's Cleveland Indians. So the D-backs finish up 15-15-3 as we get ready for the Rockies here on Thursday night.
Well, just keep in mind, nobody knows who won the Cactus League last year. I'm not even sure. I guess Milwaukee is.
If you say so, sure.
It's all about getting ready for Thursday, and I think the Diamondbacks are ready to roll.
Well, last year worked out pretty well. They went 15-15-2 and ended up winning 93. How about 15-15-3 this year? Don't forget, Thursday, Fox Sports Arizona's special coverage of the D-backs opener begins at 5 o'clock, a special 2-hour D-backs live pregame show. Only on Fox Sports Arizona and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. For Kate Longworth, my partner Bob Brindley, I'm Steve Berthiaume. We'll see you Thursday from Chase.